What is up, my brothers and sisters, my agents of respect? It is your boy Trey Johnson back with another episode of No Disrespect But Podcast. Before we get started, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Always feel free to comment. Just make sure you keep those comments respectful. And if you're interested in supporting your favorite podcaster, yours truly, the link to do so will be in the episode description. So, getting into today's show is one of my favorite times of the year, the NBA playoffs. And in recent years, it's become even better because I finally got the Dr. Mrs. To make brackets with me in terms of playoff predictions and things like that. Now, look, my predictions are going to be based on what I've seen during the season, stats, players, gut feelings type of deal. My wife's is going to be based on players that she knows, who she likes, who she doesn't like, Russell Westbrook, sorry, and things like that. So, and honestly, with that mindset is why she's been having a better bracket than me these past few years, to be quite honest with you. I think I overanalyzed, but excited, and let's get this thing started. So, look, we finally got the playoffs set because we had to go through the play-in. And fortunately, two of the teams that, again, the Heat and the Pelicans, that kind of were in positions to be in the play-in because Adam Silver is just horrible and only thinks about the money, right? Um, and they had some key injuries to their best players, to be quite honest with you. And so their playoff chances were looking dim and bleak. And so for them to be able to rise to the occasion without their leaders and their best players and secure that final playoff spot, shout out to them. Shout out to their coaching staffs, Coach Willie Green, Coach Spoelstra. You guys had these folks prepared, backs against the wall. And so, look, you're in the playoffs because you deserve to be in the playoffs. And yeah, you had to take a necessary step to get there, but you got there. And so that shows that you guys were meant to be there with the work that you put in throughout the season. So now that we have all 16 teams set, let's dive into it. And I know we're pushing time because guess what? By the time you see this episode, the first game is going to be about to start. So let's get into it. Starting with the East, 1-8 matchup. We got the Celtics and the Heat. Okay. Now, and looking at my notes here, sorry. The Celtics are 3-0 versus the Heat this season with an average margin of victory by 15 points or more. Now, granted, two of these three games were decided by less than 10 points, but there was a big 33-point victories, which obviously spikes up that point differential, right? Now, keep in mind, there's not going to be any Jimmy Butler for this series, more than likely. Had an MCL injury that he played 3 quarters in versus the 76ers, but just could not go in that last play-in game, secure that final spot. And I just think they might be a little cautious with him, at least for this series. Maybe if they make it out, we see him in the second round, but I think it's probably a certainty that he will not be participating in this first round matchup. Now, and the Celtics, they are the highest ranked offense and defense in the league, being led by Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, two all-star caliber players in their right. Jaylen Brown being one of the highest paid players in the league. So there's a lot riding on his playoff performance as well. Um, Now, we talked about ratings and things like that. The Heat have actually been the highest rated defense since January, I believe. That's kind of helped with their playoff push to get to this point. And when it comes down to me, I think everybody's looking at, hey, Jimmy Butler's not there. They're definitely going to lose. They're going to get mollywopped off the floor if you look at the season. With a healthy Jimmy Butler, with a healthy Bam Adebayo at times, the Celtics just were the superior team. And we get that. But playoffs are a lot different. And playoffs is where coaching comes into play. You can have all the talent in the world, but sometimes the better coach will win. And when Pop's not available, Coach Spoelstra is the guy that I want to go to war with. That's just the truth of the matter. And even though they're the AC, without their best player, without Terry Rozier, a guy they traded for to kind of help, during this time of year and be a guy that's an explosive scorer for them, that he's out with a neck injury. Not sure if he'll be returning in this series, having gotten any updates on his status. But when I think about Coach Spo and him having time to prepare and get his guys ready, both physically and mentally, um, there's not too many better in the game. He's actually top five in playoff wins, only behind Doc Rivers, and I think he's behind Doc Rivers and Pop for sure. But you know, as far as the East, I think Doc is the only one that has more playoff wins than him. And um, when you think of his career and how it started, and folks not really wanting to give him the benefit of the doubt and thinking he was a bad coach, and honestly, he was just young, and what he's grown to be in this game, I'm always going to give him a shot. And I think the Heat will be in almost every game this series. And that's why I'm going with a playoff upset again. I think as an 8 seed, again, the Heat will upset another number one seed. Like, I don't care about what the matchup has been in the regular season. This is playoff basketball now. And the thing about it is, I feel like when the Celtics, their shots aren't hitting, I think Derek White is the only one who consistently can do something on the other end when the shot's not falling. And that's a bad recipe, or that's a recipe for disaster, to be honest with you. And I do trust that, hey, when shots aren't falling, the Miami Heat are going to do what the hell they have to do on the other end to make it hard for you as well and keep themselves in the game. And I think the Heat win this matchup in six with another upset. And I think you start to see what the future of the Miami Heat looks like as they're led by Bam Adebayo, who I think will step up. Tyler Hero, who's healthy now, I think he'll step up. And Jaime Jaquez Jr., Jaime Jaquez Jr., who I say is the love child, the metaphorical love child of Jimmy Butler and Shakira. And that kid is going to do his thing. Love watching him at UCLA, and I think he grows up in this league and has a great first round performance. So that's my pick. Now, my wife, she picked the Celtics. She loves Jason Tatum, and she wants to see him do well. And so she picked the Celtics in that series. My dad's a diehard Celtics fan, so I already know who he's choosing. And honestly, both of them are probably right in their predictions as opposed to mine. But I'm just gonna go with the Heat. I just can't bet against Coach Spoelstra in this moment, despite all the things that he's dealing with. I'm always kind of going to pick guys that have established greatness a lot more. 2-7 matchup. Now, look, the Knicks 3-1 versus the 76ers. Joel Embiid missed a large part of the season. Obviously, Julius Randle for the New York Knicks is out for the rest of the season. Jalen Brunson is an MVP candidate. And honestly, if Shai Gilgeous-Alexander wasn't, in my opinion, the guy to win the award this year, I would really be campaigning for Jalen Brunson to be the guy, because no one truly had high expectations for the New York Knicks. But I do want to stop there because I had high expectations for the New York Knicks. Remember the hot take that I gave before the season started? Stephen A., Spike Lee, guess what? I am doubling down on it. And I said that the New York Knicks would reach the Eastern Conference Finals. And during the play-in, I was begging that the 76ers beat the Heat because I felt that the Knicks had a better chance of beating the 76ers than they did the Miami Heat in that first round matchup. And of course, I was assuming that Jimmy Butler was hurt. I didn't know the extent of his injury yet. And speaking of injury, Embiid missing a chunk of the year. They were on a tear. I think they were a top 3 seed before he got injured. He was probably well on his way to a second straight MVP award, and he hurt his knee. And the thing is, since he's been back, I feel like he hasn't learned his lesson. He's still flopping all over the place, still taking some very unnecessary bumps for a guy his size. And I think he's putting even more wear and tear on his body. And that's why every postseason, Joel is dealing with something and he can't give his all. Well, he's trying his best. He's going to put up numbers because he's a star. But when shit comes to the fan, like when shit hits the fan, you can't trust him to be that guy. And they were hoping James Harden could step up in those instances. He didn't. He got shipped off, and now it's Tyrese Maxey's responsibility. And while I think he could eventually be that guy, I think that takes some time to grow. He's been pretty good this year, especially in the games that Joel has missed. You've seen Tobias Harris do well. You've seen Kelly Oubre Jr. do well. Nick Batum in the play-in game turning back the hands of time, looking like the Portland Trail Blazers Batum, who I could not stand. I mean, maybe if those guys all ball out, then we're having a different discussion. But I do think this is going to be a really good series. But I have the Knicks winning this matchup in 7 games. I do think while the Knicks do a Jalen Brunson and committee approach, I think that's going to be beneficial for them. And I think they have some really good perimeter defenders. I think they have some really good floor spacers, and then they have some of the bigs that they can throw at Joel Embiid. Like, don't be surprised if you see Jericho Sims input in the game, not to be a true difference maker, but just to be another big body to throw in front of Joel Embiid. And while I would have loved the 76ers, I actually had in my mind preseason, I had this being the Eastern Conference Finals matchup. But unfortunately, things happen, injuries happen, and this is what we're getting in the first round. So I'm going to go with the Knicks in 7. My wife actually went with the 76ers in this matchup. So, she knows Joel Embiid, a fan of his game. So that's who she's going with. Now we go to the 3-6 matchup, Bucks versus Pacers. The Pacers have been busting the Bucks' ass all season, having a 4-1 record on the year against them. You know how I feel about Doc Quivers. Yeah, I said it the way I said it. I didn't misquote it. That's what I call him, because outside of that 2008 season, when things have become dicey, he quivers under the pressure and always wants to blame the players. And I don't see anything changing under him. And understanding that Giannis is likely not playing this series. Everybody's saying, okay, he has a left calf strain. He can maybe come back. Do not rush that man back, because guess what? If the same thing happens to him that happened to Kevin Durant, now you don't have Giannis for a whole year. And keep in mind, next year is going to be Damian Lillard's last year under contract. And I do not believe he's going to sign an extension, especially if Giannis is injured. And knowing how much Giannis relies on his explosiveness and things like that, I mean, Kevin Durant came back and it was seamless because he's just a natural scorer. He can still shoot over you. At the end of the day, he's 7 foot. He has the offensive package. Giannis just doesn't necessarily have that. And so I don't want to put him at risk of further injuring himself from a career standpoint. But definitely, if Giannis is playing, I would give them a better chance. I would probably have the Bucks actually winning this series, but knowing that the Pacers have just been a bad matchup for them, and knowing that Giannis is likely not to play, I'm taking the Pacers in 5 on this. Now, my wife is a big Giannis fan, and so she's going to support the Bucks regardless. And so she chose them. She says she believes that, hey, Damian Lillard can do enough to outplay Tyrese Halliburton. So look, that's who she's gone with. But I just have to disagree, just knowing with how it's been this year and with no Giannis, I don't think there's no victory or a victory. So we'll see how that goes. Excuse me. Then we got Cavs versus Magic 4-5 matchup, which to me is probably gonna be the best series. It definitely in the East, but maybe in the whole playoffs between both conferences. And it's definitely my favorite in the regular season. Both teams we're tied at 2 apiece, so they definitely match up well with one another. It's kind of hit or miss. You never know who's going to win. That's kind of what you love in playoff basketball. Now, these 2 teams are very different. Paolo and Franz, very young with the Orlando Magic. Paolo in his 2nd year. I think Franz Wagner is in his 3rd year, if I'm not mistaken, out of Michigan. And what they've done and what they've built, just kind of being a great tandem together. We know Paolo was an all-star this year. Markelle Fultz has been kind of coming back strong, being a guy that we saw as a #1 overall pick. And so if he's healthy and can contribute, that definitely helps in this matchup, especially defensively. Jalen Suggs and guys like that, Wendell Carter Jr., why am I missing his name? Guy from Florida State that plays for them. He's been really good as far as being a wing defender. So they have some guys that can help them go on a deep playoff run. And we look at the Cavs, they have a little uncertainty. We don't know what Darius Garland is going to want to do, if he's going to want to get traded. Donovan Mitchell did not sign a contract extension, so we could be looking at him being an unrestricted free agent this upcoming free agent period. So you got a lot of guys with some uncertainty when we talk about the star players. Obviously, you got some young guys like Jared Allen and Evan Mobley that are bigs that will kind of help control the game inside, definitely control the boards. And the more boards you can get, the more opportunities you have to score. And, Donovan Mitchell was a guy that early on could have been an MVP candidate, right? So they definitely have a good roster and a good team. And I think it's going to go 7. And I'm going to pick the Cavs in this one. I do want to go with the Magic because obviously, you know, I love my guys from Duke and Paolo Banchero. I want to root for him, but I just think that youth is going to hurt a little bit. I think Cavs just have a little bit more experience in where they can get themselves across the finish line in this scenario. And so that's kind of where I'm going with that. And my wife went with the Magic. She said she loves the underdog. She loves the young team. So that's where she went. And so kind of going to the second round of the East. Um, and I'm telling you right now, we're not about to get as in depth with the second and Eastern Conference Finals or the Conference Finals matches. But second round, based on my predictions, I have the Cavs versus the Heat and the Knicks versus the Pacers. My wife has the Celtics versus the Magic and the 76ers versus the Bucks. And so in my prediction, I went Cavs in 7. I do not know the extent of Jimmy's injury, and assuming that he's not available, um, assuming he's not available in that series, I do think the Cavs have the height in the big matchup. I think they have the superstar matchup in hand, and I do think they have a pretty good roster of role players as well. And I think it's going to be a really great series. But I do think at that point, you know, coaching will get you to 7 games. But I do think just sometimes having the better players can help put you through that or put you through that finish line. So I think the Cavs will secure their spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. And I have the Knicks defeating the Pacers in 6 to secure their spot in the Eastern Conference Finals. My wife, on the other hand, has the Celtics over the Magic and the 76ers over the Bucks. So she has a Celtics 76ers Eastern Conference Final matchup, which I really like. Like I said, you know, the way she looks at it, at the end of the day, it doesn't really come with any rhyme or reason or an actual analysis to it. But when you look at it on paper, it makes sense. It looks reasonable and looks likely. Like if you put this into Vegas, they would say, yeah, you're probably going to win some money if you cash in these bets. But in my Eastern Conference Finals, I got Knicks versus Cavs, and I have the Knicks winning in 7. So Stephen A., now the stakes have risen. Not only will we be courtside in Madison Square Garden for the Eastern Conference Finals, now, sir, I need you to save my ticket for the finals, and I'm gonna be in the booth, y'all. Bring me up there with Michael Wilbon and Big Perk and Malika Andrews. Yeah, I'm about to come chill with y'all. My wife said we're gonna make sure I'm fitted. I mean, I'm look just kind of down right now, but I'm gonna have the haircut, have the face clean shaven. I mean, look, I know you're gonna be sharp, but guess what? I'm gonna be sharper. That's just kind of how I'm coming. So be ready. The stakes have risen. So we're gonna start baby steps first. Just make sure my seat ready at MSG for the Eastern Conference Finals. And as it seems that the Knicks are about to punch their ticket to the finals, the NBA Finals, make sure there's a seat waiting for me in the booth. We're gonna hang out. We're gonna talk about the, you know, the stories, you know, the days of our lives and everything like that. And you know, I grew up on Channel 4, so I was a young and the restless, and you know, as the world turns, baby. But you know what, we can still bond over the soap operas. We can get it. You know, maybe you can give me a spot you know, I know you have your reoccurring roles, right? So maybe you can get me there, but I don't want to abuse you now. But yeah, so make sure I get my Eastern Conference Finals ticket, and then we'll talk about the finals when we get there. So Knicks in 7. Now, my wife has the Celtics beating the 76ers and making it to, I think it would be their second NBA Finals in a 3-year period and having a shot to actually win it all again. Now, that's where we are in the East. Keep in mind, I got the Knicks in the finals. My wife has the Celtics in the finals, representing the Eastern Conference. Now going to the West. Number 1 seed OKC versus number 8 seed Pelicans. And look, OKC leads the series 2-1. They actually won the last 2 games in the series. SGA, like I said, is the MVP to me and for me. And the Pelicans are likely without Zion in this matchup. And all signs point to, hey, choose the Thunder. They're the 1 seed. They're one of the best young teams in the league. They have the MVP of the league. Pick them. But as we know, basketball is a game of matchups. And look, I don't want to fall into the whole OKC is the weakest number 1 seed in the history of the game. And look, I'm picking the Pels to win this series, and I'll explain why. But the Pelicans winning this series does not indicate that the Thunder are somehow the weakest ever. That is far from the truth. Like we've seen week one seeds that we said there's no way they're going to win a championship. But I think sometimes, and a lot of times, because we knew there was a team that probably didn't have the same record um, or same standings, but from a matchup standpoint, they just matched up very well with this team, and I think the Pelicans do. Someone asked me, "Hey, can you explain the pathway?" And I said, "Yeah, I think the Pelicans have the perimeter defenders. Obviously, you have Herb Jones, but you have Najee Marshall back. You have Dyson Daniels back. You can even throw Jose Alvarado in there as guys to just throw at SGA from time to time and make it difficult. And last year they played in the play-in to get a playoff spot, and it was really Josh Giddey that kind of went off and had his moment. And so, I've said the big matchup is going to be CJ McCollum versus Josh Giddey. Like CJ McCollum cannot let Josh Giddey outplay him. I do think Brandon Ingram is going to give you star for star, blow for blow with SGA. And again, I think defensively they have the guys to throw at SGA. I know Lou Dort is a guy that's going to be taking a matchup with Brandon Ingram, but Brandon Ingram, the prize fighter, is just a natural born scorer. And sometimes that's just so much you can do. And I think it's going to be a really good series. I also think Jonas Valanciunas is going to be a big factor in this because you cannot play small with the Oklahoma City Thunder because your small ball lineup is not better than OKC's small ball lineup. Like you put Larry Nance in there for extended periods of time, Chet Holmgren will have his way. I am sorry. He will have his way. You need to be able to find times to run offense through JV and have him dominate in the post. Make it hard for Chet. Use his physicality, right? These things have to happen. If you try to play OKC's way, you are going to lose. I'm just saying that right now. But I think Coach Willie is growing up as a head coach, and I think that the Pels win this series in 6. Now, my wife says, look, I can't trust the Pelicans. Zion not playing. I'm going with the OKC Thunder. Again, that's likely to happen. It's likely that the Thunders are going to beat the Pelicans without their best player, right? And just being the number one seed in the Western Conference, having an MVP candidate, more than likely they're going to win this series. But it's just something when I look at the matchups, and if the Pelicans can do these things well that I kind of talked about, having the various perimeter defenders, being able to count on offense from CJ McCollum, being able to have a Trey Murphy provide something, being able and willing, because I think they're able to, being willing to have JV be a focal point in this series because he can do so much damage. They made the playoffs because they ran offense through JV. Let's just talk about it. They ran some offense through him in that play-in game last night, and they got it. It's not a coincidence. The guy has been in many playoff series. You need to start relying on folks' experience if you want to go far as a coach. So I got the Pels in 6. My wife has the Thunder winning that matchup. Denver Lakers, look, I didn't even have to do an explanation. I got the Nuggets in 5. I'm tired of hearing the bullshit. Like, this is a close series. It's not. The Denver Nuggets are just a better team. They're a much better team, and they're going to show it again. And look, I'm only giving the Lakers a game out of the respect for LeBron James and who he is and what he has done for this game. But honestly, if you're talking about heart of hearts, it's another fucking sweep. They're just not better. Oh, well, if D'Lo matches, that was Gilbert Arenas saying, well, he can't. Like, stop with the ifs, ands, or the buts. How many times has Jamal Murray shown that he elevates his game? He elevates his game in the postseason. So the 20 to 22 that he's averaging in the regular season, put 8 on that. Because that's what he's going to do. Like, we're talking about matching bucket for bucket. Guess what? You have to defend him. D'Lo couldn't defend him. It wasn't about him not being able to shoot. He had to exert energy defending somebody that he could not guard. And I damn sure know you ain't about to put Austin Reeves on him. Vando's hurt. You're not about to put Gabe Vincent on him. We saw what happened in the NBA Finals last year. Please don't do that. He's not some marquee perimeter defender. Don't put LeBron on him. Shit, AD probably could, but shit, if you put AD on Jamal Murray, who's going to guard Jokic? And that whole, well, we're going to start Rui on Jokic and have AD play off. Okay, let's see how well that works. You still got beat. You still get your ass handed to you every time. Like this team destroys you every single time because you can't stop them. You can't guard them. You don't match up well. And yes, LeBron's going to have his numbers. Yes, AD's going to have his numbers offensively. But at the end of the day, there's just not a better team than them. And so I'm giving you a game out of respect for LeBron James. That's it. I don't care about none of the rest of you. I'm doing it for LeBron. Now, I would probably give you two, but I can't go that far for now. I'm going five. Denver Nuggets in five. My wife also picked the Nuggets, even though she had uh, a much more difficult battle picking this. Obviously, I mean, understandable. LeBron James has never lost a first round series, I don't believe yet. So I get it. I get it. But Denver's just mm-mm. They're just too good. 3-6 matchup, Timberwolves versus the Suns. Suns actually lead that matchup 3-0. T-Wolves have not won a game. Look, I think Ant versus KD is the obvious matchup. But I want to see two things. One is Cat healthy, because if Karl-Anthony Towns is healthy, this could be his series offensively and just taking it over, because there's nobody on the Suns roster that can defend him if he's got it going. And then a 1A or number two is Rudy Gobert going to be playable? As dominant of a defender as he's supposed to be, and he's probably going to win another Defensive Player of the Year award, he's not playable in these situations. He's not good enough to be on the perimeter. Sometimes he gets himself in stupid foul trouble in the postseason. And towards the end of the games, because he's not a scoring threat, and he's hardly ever a lob threat because he's so soft at the rim, you can't even play him. Like, can we get the French Rudy Gobert, the guy that dominates for some reason on the national team, but can't do that shit in the NBA? Like, if the Timberwolves are getting him, then we're talking about a whole different series, right? But not just a series, you're talking about a whole different playoff run if Rudy Gobert can tap into whatever the hell he does when he goes back to France. Because I know what we typically see in the NBA and in the postseason is not the same guy we see in Olympic play and international play. Those two guys are totally different. He needs that French guy to come over and help his Timberwolves win. And look, my gut's telling me the Suns, knowing what I know and all the questions I have about the Timberwolves, but I'm going to go the Timberwolves in seven. That's just kind of what I'm going with. My wife chose the Suns. She knows KD. She loves Devin Booker. Doesn't know too much about the Timberwolves, and that's what she chose. And again, it's logical if you think about it. And then if you even take my analysis of it, I'm just going away from my gut and from what the numbers say. It's just something I just feel like it's Ant's time, and I saw this during the World Games, the FIBA games. It's just his time, and I think they win the playoff series and kind of build on that success type of deal. We'll see how it goes. And then the 4-5 matchup, Clippers versus Mavs. Clippers actually lead that series 2-1. Luka's having a magnificent year, leading the league in scoring. Kyrie's been a great addition for them, being a great Robin or Batman, Superman, however they want to talk about it. We know what Paul George and Kawhi Leonard bring to this. I think the real matchup is going to be Tim Hardaway Jr. Is he outplaying Westbrook and or Harden? The Clippers got Harden for you can't always trust Kawhi's health. You can't always trust Paul George's health. And they wanted to have another star that could step in and help. Obviously, Westbrook going to the bench has been great for their second unit, right? Getting some of their players involved. But here's the thing. I can't trust Kawhi staying healthy. And if I can't trust him staying healthy, I can't trust the Clippers because Westbrook, not good in the playoffs. James Harden, playoff choker. Paul George, playoff choker. And outside of having LeBron James, Ty Lue, playoff choker as a head coach. So if Kawhi is not there and I can't trust that he's going to be healthy, and like the tricky shit with Kawhi is he'll score 37 and you're like, oh shit, it's about to be a great series. And then you get a notification that, oh, he tore something. Like, when? Like walking back to the locker room? Because it sure as hell didn't look like he tore something during the game. Like they played the Suns, I don't know if it was last year or the year before, and he drops like 38. And they're like, oh, he tore his meniscus. Where? When? I didn't see it. And he was still balling. Like, what? So I don't know. I can't trust Kawhi being healthy. So I'm going with the Mavs in 6 for this. If Kawhi does stay healthy, then I can see the Clippers winning in 6 or 7, but I can't trust it. It's at some point, I got to start to believe what someone is, right? So I'm gonna go with Mavs in six. My wife also chose the Mavs. I think that's the only one we chose together on. Anyways, um, going into the second round. So based on my predictions, I have the Mavs versus the Pels. And look, I put a caveat in mind. If Zion is available to play, I think the Pelicans winning six. If he's not, I think the Mavericks winning six. So that's just my caveat for that one. My wife actually chose in her matchup, she has OKC versus the Mavs. She chose the Mavs to make it to the Western Conference Finals. And then Denver versus the Timberwolves in mine. I have Denver in five. My wife has Denver over the Suns. And so she has the Nuggets and the Mavs. So again, a pretty good ass conference finals. Like I think some people they don't want to say it, but they love to see a team led by two white players. Like let's just call it what it is. Denver Nuggets and the Dallas Mavericks. They don't care if they're European and not American. There's some people that would love to see two white people taking over the game like that. Let's just call it what it is. But from a basketball standpoint, just race aside, basketball standpoint, they got two of the better players in the league, like going at it. Two of the better European players in the league going at it. Guys that's representing the nation, guys that are best friends off the court, by the way. There's been some talks about them, maybe flirting the team up, So I would love that series. Um, and so my wife has Nugs and Mavs. I have Nugs and Pels. I have the Denver Nuggets. Look, I'm sorry, Pels. I did predict Western Conference Finals, but I'm not predicting you guys getting past that behemoth that is Nikola Jokic and everything that team represents. Good coaching, good culture, good players, just a good team. And I just trust that more than I trust the Pels right now. And also trusting the Pels' ability to stay healthy throughout a long playoff run. But I do have it going six. I got Denver in six there. My wife also has the Nuggets beating the Mavs in the Western Conference Finals. And so for my predictions, I have Denver versus the Knicks. Stephen A. Got the Denver Nuggets versus the New York Knicks. Remember that. New York Knicks. And my wife has the Denver Nuggets versus the Boston Celtics. And we both decided that the Denver Nuggets will be going back to back. And they will be back-to-back champions in the NBA. I got Denver in seven, and it'll be a good matchup. Based on my wife's rankings with the Nuggets and the Celtics, I could see the Celtics and JT finally getting one. Because look, you got to start getting your rings now. Look, you got to start getting your rings. Like this year might be for some of y'all your last chance because there is a 7'5" French alien that's about to start taking some damn championships and awards and all that shit out of people's hands. So you have the opportunity this year, maybe next year, maybe the next 2 years, you better start taking it because they're about to strap a rocket onto that kid and it's happening. Championships are coming back to San Antonio, and y'all knew I had to fucking put San Antonio in this episode somehow, some way. But at the end of the day, me and the love of my life, that's why she loved my life. We might go different paths, but we always end up at the same destination. And that's how you have a happy life and a happy marriage. Anyways, about to close things out. As I've always said, if there's anything I said that offended you, it's a good thing. It's an opportunity for me to learn. It's an opportunity for you to teach me. All I ask is that you keep it respectful. Enjoy the playoffs. Peace.